Taxes, inflation, and the breakdown of the family are causing us to fall behind. We have the lowest net worth in the United States, and I'm sure those numbers cross the border as well.
Some people get the disability tax credit and they don't open the registered disability savings plan, and that's where the government puts in all the money of grants and bonds for a person with a disability who has done all the steps. Some people don't do all the steps.
Good morning, everybody. It is Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and that's been going on now 4 years. And because of that partnership, it's a partnership, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I like to say, you're watching The Morning Vibe and hope that you're keeping blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Good morning, Ryan Knight. Can you hear me? Something is telling me Ryan can't hear me. All right, we are going to go without Ryan. All right. Ryan's having some technical difficulties, which is no problem at all. But let's see who's in the comments. Oh, people are watching and the people are jumping in. Good. Let's see who is coming into the comment section. But let's say Monday morning, got up this morning, snow. I thought, can you figure out Toronto weather? Middle of last week, 20 degrees Celsius, which is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Shorts, T-shirts. This morning, get up, snow. If you're not ready for this type of weather, I don't think you should live in Toronto, to be honest with you. It is always changing and fluctuating, but hey, we got it going on. It's all good. It's all happy. It's a wonderful thing. Great weekend, relaxing. I had some time to relax. Had a long day yesterday. I was basically in conversations from 8 o'clock yesterday morning till 10 o'clock, then did a break and did more stuff yesterday afternoon. Couldn't stop. It was really good. And Saturday was pretty relaxing. Also had a great conversation with Aisha K. Staggers and Laura Laki on their show Primetime Saturday, and also with Sadar Nadima Musa yesterday on the Black Canada Talk. And we have an election coming up in Canada. Are you ready for your election? All right, let's see if Ryan, are you with us? Yeah, Ryan's connection is not good. So you know what? I'm just going to let Ryan go. All right, so people are starting to pile in morning. Oh, the Naked Property with Osai says, good morning. The winter doesn't want to give up. Yeah, the winter does not want to give up, and actually had, lunch yesterday with the Naked Property with Osai. That's her YouTube name. She didn't show up naked, by the way. Her son, we were celebrating her son and hers birthdays. It passed a little bit, but it was great, and went to a great restaurant, had a great chicken sandwich. So good. But it was great seeing you. Fitness IQ Cam, morning. How are you? Hope you are feeling better. Hope you are feeling better today. And yeah, people are piling in now. So chime in and tell us where you're chiming in from today. Everyone's watching. Good stuff. Good stuff. We got people chiming in from all around the place, which is good. So tell us where you're chiming in from. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel, put in the city and country. Oh, chicken sandwich. Yes, Fitness IQ Cam. It was so good. Oh, you know what? I got to remember the name of the place. They get a little promo from Dr. I because I've been there more than once. I'm a foodie by heart, as a lot of people know. Let me just tell you. Yes, Craig Castle Restaurant in Ajax. They also have a location in Oshawa. It was good. And I just got a message from Ryan saying his connection is bad, so he's going to try another spot. We'll work with that. I am here. Our friend is here. What else did people do on the weekend? Really? What else did you do? It was a weekends, do people have calm weekends anymore? All right, and the naked property with Osai says it was amazing. Yes, Crepe Castle, highly recommend. Highly recommend, but the company was better. Oh, the chicken waffle sandwich. No, I didn't have, I haven't had chicken and waffles there. And that's something I haven't eaten for a long time. I can't remember, but the last time I had it, I can't remember the restaurant, was really, really, really good. But I don't know the last time I had chicken and waffle, but wherever, I'm a sucker for good chicken and waffles. Sucker. Carolyn, Nicole, you can't hear that. We're going to edit that out of the replay. No, I'm just joking, but it was really good. But yeah, we had a great weekend. Want some warmer weather to come consistently. Consistent warm weather would be nice. We'll take what we can get, but consistent warm weather. Good morning, Christy White on the Facebook platform. Love that. Love that. Actually, I'm was a creator who I'm following on YouTube. Won't give her name right now, but it's interesting. She was sharing some stories on how a lot of big time creators who have large followings are leaving social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram because they're feeling they're not getting the return on investment financially from those platforms. And it's really interesting what's going on with a lot of creators saying, forget these platforms. They're making money off of me. They're making money from me coming on their platform. They're not rewarding me back for my time and efforts. It's really interesting conversation in the world of that. Coming up later on, well, we have Mignon Cam coming up on Friday. And then on Saturday, Ryan, if he can get on, his organization, ACBN, is holding their symposium out in Mississauga. I'll be at that. I'm going to be a facilitator, sharing about some different things. And Dr. George Fraser is going to be there. Brian Scudamore, the founder of 1-800-JUNK, is going to be at the event, and Brian is there and the theme of this year's ACBN Symposium is franchising. And for those who don't remember, a few months ago, Ryan was on Dragon's Den, which is our version, Canada's version of Shark Tank, which started before Shark Tank, by the way. So those who watch Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, Robert Herjavec, they were doing their stuff. I know Robert Herjavec was doing his stuff here before on Dragon's Den before he went down to Shark Tank. I don't know if Mr. Wonderful was on Dragon's Den. Don't know if I can remember that or not. Not 100% sure. If anyone remembers, put it in the chat. I don't remember if, and I can't remember. I know him as Mr. Wonderful. Can't remember his real name. But if you put it in the chat, that would be fantastic. All right. And I think that's it, covering what went on over the weekend. Nothing else. Pretty quiet. Oh, I know if you're a sports junkie. Okay. Yes. Okay. Ryan says, yes, he was. Kevin O'Leary. Thank you, Ryan. You're not on. You are, but you're not on. You can't come on the conversation, but you are in the chat. So fantastic. That is great. That is great. All right. I think we have done what we need to do this morning. I'm looking forward to this conversation coming up. We're going to have a conversation with charities today. JG Mars, good morning. Good Monday morning. Good to see you, JG Mars from Colorado. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. I don't know if you caught prime time on Saturday. I didn't see you in the chat. You were missed. But you have things to do. So anytime people take time out of their positive, productive schedule to watch live or on the replay, it's appreciated, not taken for granted. As I was saying before, we're going to be talking about charities this morning and best practices. I'll leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that. We're going to have a good conversation with charities. And I want you to ask questions about charities, whether you are involved in one, like Ryan is in a not-for-profit and charities. We're going to do a deep dive this morning into that world. We're going to take a break, and in 30 seconds, we will be right back. Good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Vibe here. So let's bring her up. She has been with us for a number of months now. this lady called Minnie on Cam.
And that was the thing when I learned about lifting yourself out of poverty. It's actually a specific financial number if you look at all your numbers. And now I see it happening to people in the BIPOC community. I don't need my phone for every moment. Culturally, our family doesn't let us sit down and do nothing.
There you go. You're going to be seeing her on Friday, Minnie on Cam, on the Morning Vibe, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, this Friday morning. All right, let's do some housework, then let's get down to it. So please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. So we've cleanly passed 1,730 subscribers. Yes. If you haven't subscribed and you're up to it, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Actually, that's one of the things that's happened over the last few days. I may have mentioned it on Friday. I've been asked to manage another Discord group. For this one's for Black men and those who love them. So that's going to be coming up soon. To advertise your business, product, or service on our show, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Can't forget Indie Soup TV. Dr. Tachi down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is a lot warmer than Toronto today, by the way. Independent Content Creators Network, about 30 independent content creators, 25,000 YouTube subscribers in 9 months. Again, I've emphasized 25,000 because only 4% of all YouTube channels have over 10,000 subscribers. And I'm blessed to provide content to that platform. And also, I sit on the advisory board. And let's get back to some comments before we get our new friend up here. All right. So JJ Mars says, couldn't make yesterday's show. Frequency Event Promotion says, good day. The Food Plane, good morning, Dr. Vibe. DSC, I took a look at one of your posts on Instagram. Was it a peanut butter chocolate cheesecake? Stay south of the border because I want a piece. Opal Inspired, check her out. All her creations on YouTube. Says good morning. And Frequency Event Promotion says congrats with the subscription milestone. And actually, Frequency Event Promotions has me appearing for his network roadshow next. I believe it's April 16th. You're going to be hearing more about that. But if you're in the Toronto area, I'm going to be live sharing about how to start a successful podcast show on April 16th, but we'll get into more details. Food Plane says yes. Okay, yes, it was that, and also gives smile emojis. All right, and let's see if Ryan's good this time. Ryan?
Test.
Oh, the magic. What's going on, Mr. Ryan?
Hey, on a road trip, trying to be halfway to my destination, so I left early, but needed to pop in so I can see what's up and see you, brother.
Good. How's things going in your world?
Oh, so far so good. So we did our ticket giveaway last night for the ACBN Legacy Symposium. So shout out to the winners there that came on to the live, and thank you for being one of my guests last week. We're trying to talk to different facilitators that are going to be at the symposium this Saturday. So the deadline to get your tickets is passed. It's sold out. We gave away an extra ticket because there was one left that somebody could get, but time ran out because at midnight we had to finalize numbers for catering. So our team, I'm trying not to stress out my team by opening up more tickets. It's done and done. So it's about execution time. Looking forward to the weekend.
All right, fantastic, good stuff. And family is good?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking. How about you? How's the family?
Doing fine. Thank you for asking. All right. So to start today's conversation, I'm going to do it. I could do it one of many ways. All right. This is the way I'm going to start it off. I'm going to put up a engagement for the family, for the people who are watching live. And then at the same time, I'm going to introduce our new friend. Well, I've known this gentleman's becoming a friend, a really fast and furious friend. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up on the screen, if you're watching the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel, Here's the question. Have you donated to a charity in the last 6 months? So if you're watching on YouTube, the Dr. Vibe Show, answer yes, no, not sure. Well, we can do that, but yes, no, not sure. So we'll take that off. And our new friend, well, he's becoming a friend for me today, is Craig Swistun. He's the founder and portfolio manager of Lexicon Financial Group at Raymond James Investment Counsel. They work with charities and those who support them by managing their investment assets, growing their communities, and leveraging mutual networks to help them save more, raise more, and be more efficient, because the causes that are important to them matter. And just a little background, I had the opportunity to he's very much involved with the organization called Corporate Connections. And I was invited. Well, here's the backstory. And I think I mentioned a few months ago, I went to a dinner in downtown a few months ago on Spadina, and it's 5-course dinner. Shnazana, who hosts, and she's actually has another one coming up, and she wants you and I to go, Ryan. So we gotta talk about that. She's bugging me. Says, "Where's Ryan? I need to meet Ryan. Where's Ryan?" And so we get the first course. Well, 6 tables of 6 people each. We get the first course, beet salad. And I just go, and Craig's laughing in the background. And I just went, this beet salad is out of bounds.
Okay, nice.
And that started our conversation. And from then on, there's been so many wonderful conversations. I'm very humbled to know him. He is introduced me to so many wonderful people in a short period of time. So I just want to bring up to the stage a gentleman who I'm happy to know and wanting to know better, and we chat at least once a month, who came in from London last night. So he isn't working on a lot of sleep, but he's doing good. Mr. Craig Swistun, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. Nothing better than a beet salad story to start the day.
100%.
Good to see you.
We are really happy to have you here. And before we get into it, can you just share a little bit about your background other than the stuff I just shared with the audience?
Yeah, I have a bit of a complicated background when it comes to what I do sort of professionally. I'm originally from Western Canada, although I've been in Toronto for a long time. I worked the big portion of my career in kind of call it the creative industry. I was sort of the de facto creative director. I ran my own agency, worked in marketing, advertising, and branding. And so even though I'm in financial services today, I still really look at the world through the lens of marketing and communication. And one of the things that we always find is that most problems can be solved by improving communications. So when we look at what we're doing with nonprofits and charities, a lot of that work is just, how do you have better conversations? How do you facilitate the kind of work that you do on this show? How do you facilitate conversations that actually move people forward? And that really comes from that diverse background that I have, working with brands and, trying to sell shoes and sell travel packages like you did in the traditional advertising space.
How did you transition from that world to the world you're in today?
That's a really interesting question. And so I think by design, I always knew that, we are as individuals more complicated than what we do for a living, right? We're parents, we're fathers, we're children, we enjoy different things. And so I've never liked to be pigeonholed as one thing. And when I was establishing myself here in Toronto, I was working the creative space. And then I started working with people in the financial services area. And I became this weird, what is this guy who comes out of advertising working in finance? And then at some point it switched to, what is this guy working in finance? Why is he still involved with people on the advertising side? And, I have my professional designation as a graphic designer, and I actually retired from the association about 18 months ago, and they granted me an emeritus title, which makes me feel old. But I don't think there's a lot of people in my space, the money management space, that have financial designations and designations in things like, communications and graphic design. So I've always had a foot firmly planted in two really, really different worlds. And I've just always been that guy. I think we are all those people, but sometimes we lean into more of kind of our present than we do our past.
Nice. Ryan, you can jump in anytime you want, because Ryan is a charity himself. So
yeah, did I miss what pulled you into the finance side? I heard I guess
No, that's a great question, Ryan. What pulled me in is that I found myself in a position where I was leading a brand management and advertising team. I came straight out of the advertising kind of space, in the marketing space, and I built an in-house creative team at one of the largest financial companies in this country. And we did that at a time when there was a bit of a trend towards large organizations bringing inside the strategic thinking that was required to push them to the next level. I think some of that has gone back to where you will hire the consultants now who will come in and bring strategy. But that at that time, we were at the early stage of, let's bring all the creative thinking inside. Let's take responsibility for our brand internally and build the team and resources required to do that. So I was sort of brought in because of my independent expertise, my third-party expertise. And, once you're in the financial company, that's when that transition took place, which is, oh, you're now a marketing executive inside financial services.
Right. Gotcha.
Than just being myself, right?
Okay, good stuff. Let's get into it right now. What are the biggest financial challenges you see charities, or biggest challenges that charities are facing today?
How much time do you have?
That's why you're here.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of challenges, and if you want to look at statistics, every year the Canada Revenue Agency puts out statistics on giving, and there's been a long-term decline in the amount of giving going on for 15 years. And what that means is that when you look at the tax returns of Canadians, you can see how many Canadians are claiming charitable tax donations receipts on their taxes, and that's been going down. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that giving is going down. It means that giving is going down for where you are getting a tax receipt for your gift. And that's a whole other area, which I know we'll get into. And what that means is that, charities, if you want to think about that, but nonprofits as well, they're doing as much work as they've ever done, but with less sources of revenue, or with less reliable sources of revenue, because giving overall is trending down. What it also means is that when you look at the world we're in post-COVID, right? COVID-19 placed a lot of stress on charities and nonprofits because they're there to support the communities in need. And so we have a strange situation right now where giving is down, revenues at the charities are down, and demand is up. And demand is up in certain sectors and increasing. And so it's not sustainable. You can't do more with less over and over and over again before something breaks. And that's kind of where a lot of charity, I'm going to use the word charities more often. That's where a lot of charities find themselves right now is, the coffers are empty. They're not being replenished fast enough. And man, the demand for their services exists inside the community for sure. So it's a challenging time. There's no doubt about it.
And so I was curious your approach when you're now talking to charities, and well, I guess you work more directly with charities than nonprofits. One, around what can you do with them if things are kind of going in the opposite, like in reverse? And is there a way to right that ship? Or, as you mentioned, kind of putting your marketing hat back on, is it like, we need to help these charities start to replenish these coffers? Are you finding yourself having more of those conversations now?
I think it's all blended. It's all related, Ryan. One of the things that there's an organization called Canada Helps, and what they've done is they put an annual report of giving out, and their executive director and CEO coined this phrase. At least I think he coined the phrase, this giving gap, the gap between the demands in the community and the money available to support them. So I've been on this path to suggest that the way to close the giving gap is through education.
Okay.
Let's start with the donor. If we can educate donors about the more effective ways to give in support of the causes they care most about, it may enable them to give even more. We asked the question, or Dr. Vibe asked the question off the top, have you donated to charity in the last 6 months? That's a great question. The next part is, how did you make that donation? Because there are tax efficient, tax effective ways to donate that could allow people to give more. They're just unfortunately not taught these things in school.
Gotcha.
So if we can educate, we can help. If charities can educate their supporters, they stand a better chance of getting more support from the people they've educated. But they're also educating people to be good donors to the other causes that are important as well. So I think education is a way to close that gap. And I think that's some of the work that we do with charities is to work with them on that education piece.
Excellent.
Love this. So what makes your organization's approach to working with charities and their supporters or nonprofits unique?
I wish I had I wish I had an answer. I don't think anything we do is unique, except I think that we've really committed ourselves to this course of action. So when it comes to, being able to come on a program like this and share some ideas and some things, we hope to change people's perception about the way they can support the causes they care about. To me, it's always been about how do we educate more people about more effective ways to support things. That's it. And if we can change one person's approach today, then it's worth it, because it will spread. People will share things with each other. And it's the difference between knowing and not knowing. And so what makes it somewhat unique, I don't think what we do is unique, but what makes the approach different is that I've invested a significant amount of time and energy into learning as much as I can about the challenges facing the nonprofit sector. Last year alone, I spoke with over 100 executive directors, board members, and CEOs of charities, so that I can understand what the real pain points are. And when we're doing kind of financial work with organizations, look, you're an individual, right? So if you're working with a professional money manager or professional wealth advisor, they're looking after your assets for sure, but they're also having conversations with you about your tax, your estate, your financial planning, your risks, all of those things. Well, what we found is that a lot of times charities aren't talking to their professional money managers about the things that actually matter: their donor engagement, their donor retention, their donor acquisition, the donor education piece, how to solve a grant and proposal writing challenge. So we're trying to wrap those types of conversations around the work that we do, just to broaden the amount of things that we can help people with.
So just to do a reset, we're talking with Craig Swistun in regards to charities, nonprofits. His contact information is there. I've sent it out to all the platforms in the comment sections that I have control over. And he did mention about speaking to a number of organizations. And when I first met Craig, he had told me he had did a series of conversations with people in the nonprofit sector. So what a great segue. And there is, and as part of the description there, this is the YouTube page. And I would strongly recommend, if you have interest in the nonprofit sector, whether it's donating or wanting, or charities, whether it's donating or wanting to get involved or are involved, please subscribe to the YouTube channel you're seeing on the screen. It's also part of the description I've put along with his email address. Just want to segue, Craig, what was the initiative for you to do these series of conversations?
Well, look, it came out of this realization that I had through these discussions with so many executive directors and directors, that working in the nonprofit or the charitable space is difficult. It is hard, especially when you have, in some cases, a revenue crunch. And what we found is that and you mentioned off the top that I've been able to make some interesting introductions for you personally, but I've always had that approach. And so I would talk to an executive director. I'm going to give you a quick story in a minute. And they would tell me what their challenge was. And I would say, well, you need to talk to this person over there. So we did some consulting work with a client. We actually didn't get them as a client. We were in the bidding process to work with them. And they were a hospital, and they were raising money to buy an MRI machine. And when we discovered that we didn't win the bid, as it happens, we called them up to see what we could have done different, because that's just what you do in sales. And we learned that they were going to stick with somebody closer to home. That's all fine. And I said, well, you're still need to buy an MRI machine. And they said, yes. And I said, well, let me introduce you to this executive director of a different hospital foundation that literally just went through the process of buying the machine. Maybe you can compare notes, see what they learned, why they chose what they chose. And after a moment of silence at the end of the phone, they said, why are you doing this for us? And I said, well, you still need an MRI machine, right? Like, just because we didn't do business doesn't mean I can't help you with an introduction. Right. The introduction took me 15 seconds to make. It's not a big deal. And you realize, though, through experiences like that a lot of times people get very focused on their work, and it's important that they focus on their work. But there might be somebody else somewhere else who's already solved the problem that they're struggling to solve. And so the collection of videos that you kindly flashed on the screen was my attempt to speak to leaders in the nonprofit sector at different stages of their organizational development, and to say, is there somebody in Chilliwack, BC, or Sydney, Nova Scotia that maybe is struggling to get to the next level with their own nonprofit or charity? And maybe these stories can be enough to inspire them to do something different, to change, or to pick up the phone and call the person who they just saw in an interview and say, how did you guys get over this hurdle?
Love that. And I was curious, because you do talk to those that are charities and also nonprofits. Is there ever a moment in a nonprofit's journey that they should be considering a charity, like becoming a charity? Like, do you find the benefits are something that nonprofits should be looking at, or is it really personal preference? Like, is it people should just stay a nonprofit and not really think of charity, or should that be on their horizon?
Yeah, I want to think about that question a little bit. It's a very good one. I think the way I would approach it is it really depends on what it is you're trying to accomplish, and is there an advantage to being a nonprofit versus being a charity? I mean, there are legal differences between the two. As a charity, you can issue a charitable donation tax receipt, for example, but it limits you in some respects as to the type of work that you can do. Nonprofit provides you more flexibility, but you can't issue donation tax receipts. And then for-profit offers you even more flexibility. You can be a for-profit business without any restrictions on how to operate and pile your profits back into community. So I think a lot of it depends on the causes that you're considering working with, and then a little bit on just who you are as a management team. But what's really important is, especially if you're thinking about doing something new, is make sure you sit down with people that have some experience in the governance side, because all of these different legal structures come with reporting, finance. You got to file your taxes, you need an audit, you got to get an accounting firm. Understand what you're walking into before you decide, hey, I want to be a charity. Right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So many people want to give to a charity but feel overwhelmed by the choices. What advice do you have for someone trying to identify the causes that matter most to them?
Yeah, and this is the work that we do a lot of with individuals, and I'm happy to have this conversation with anybody who's interested in just doing this exploration. One of the things I find most effective is to break their own life down into segments, and to say, it's easiest to say, what are the causes you care most about right now, today, however old you are, what are the causes you care about, and why? Why do you care about that cause? If you think about, maybe somebody's had a family member or a friend who's had, a health condition, and that's top of mind, and you want to support that, and that makes sense. Or maybe you've, been attending the same church for a long time and you want to continue to support that, and that makes sense. But literally just make a list of what are the causes that are important to you today and why, because the why is the important part. But what I also want to encourage people to do is to start to look backwards. What are the causes that were important to you 10 years ago, 15 years ago? What were the causes that were important to you that, as a young person, that made you who you are today? And so to really take a deep look and create this notion of a mapping of your life with respect to the charities and nonprofits that you've engaged with. And I guarantee you will have forgotten something that was influential to the way you've grown up and the things that have made you who you are today. Now, you've lost touch with some of those organizations. Maybe you moved to a different city. Maybe your interests have moved on, and maybe they've lost touch with you. But if you're in a position to give, it's also important to think about those organizations that have interacted with you at some point. And so it's a longer exercise, but it is about filtering. And it is also about that journey of discovery to understand what's important. So I'll give you a quick story. We had a client. She came to us a few years ago, and she said her husband had passed away from a battle with cancer, and she said she wanted to support cancer-related charities. And we said, that's okay. That's fantastic. Which one? Breast cancer, skin cancer, prostate cancer, liver cancer, leukemia.
Right.
Primary research, hospice care, support. And so when you look at the number of causes that you can choose, saying something like cancer and donating to Canadian Cancer Society as an example, There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But just asking those open-ended questions got her to start to go down this funneling effect, where she said, what I really want to see, the change I really want to see in the world is, in her case, was better research into a very specific form of cancer. And she found the organizations that aligned with those. We helped do the sorting for her. We presented her with some information, and then she made a decision. But she made a decision that was closer to her heart than just taking, I don't want to say it's the easy way out, but than just saying, I want to support cancer. And it was more rewarding for her to go through that journey of self-discovery to understand what she really cared about. It's not easy, though, because we don't spend enough time thinking about this stuff.
Right.
It's a difficult conversation. But that can be incredibly valuable is the what and why. And then, take this from our friends who do improv theater. Okay, yes, and then what? And then why?
Mm.
And it just, you just keep reducing it down until you find out, actually, that's the one I want to support. So it's a deeply personal journey sometimes, but I encourage people to look deeply into the present, but also into their past.
Nice.
Yeah,
Before
I
I
love that.
just want to say greetings to C Nurse K. Says good morning, all. Good to have you here. And also Dr. Tachi, who we mentioned earlier, is in the house. Good morning, all. So anyone who's watching live, especially live, if you have any questions about charities, nonprofits, either from the donation end, or are you in one, or you want to start one, this is a great gentleman to chat with today. Ryan, do you have anything? I have more questions, but do you have anything anyone add on?
I was curious more about the communication that you help charities with, because you said that education piece. What, I guess, advice would you give to charity watching or nonprofit watching that wants to do better education on what they do? What would be a good way to get that conversation started? Or is it best to find a marketing agency that can build it for you, but to do it internally? Because I know a lot of them are strapped for cash.
You ask a simple question, Ryan. I'm going to give maybe it's a little bit of an impolite answer. You have to make sure that the entire organization is on board with that desire to change, because a lot of times that internal alignment isn't where people think it is. Because if there's a reason you're not investigating kind of new communication strategies, there could be an underlying reason that not everybody on the board is in agreement with the direction that perhaps the executive director wants to take it. So seek internal alignment first.
Gotcha.
I'm not a consultant. I'm not going to come in and help people manage their communication program, but I can recognize when there's a gap, and I can say, you do need some professional help. Right. The one of the tests that you want to think about is, why might you want to change your communication strategy? It's if too many people are saying no, it means you're not asking properly. And it probably means that you're not asking with respect for who your audience is. So if you're constantly telling people about the great work you do, you have to tell people about the great work, but you have to engage people in a discussion. Otherwise, it's a one-sided conversation. Right? You ever go to a party or a gathering and you meet that person who all they ever do is talk about themselves? How quickly do you want to move on to somebody else?
Right.
So conversations, and again, this is a perfect forum. Conversations have to be a two-way street, because the minute people feel engaged, man, the power that they can bring to your organization, not just with money, that's important, but some people will talk about friend raising instead of fundraising. Just having those advocates out in the community amplifying your voice, it's so important.
Nice.
Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Inspired Thought says, good point about narrowing down the cause you want to support. When working for a cancer hospital, I chose to support the daycare for patients and a fund that subsidized parking fees.
Okay. Yes. That is, and I appreciate that comment so much. That's exactly what we're talking about. You're supporting the people who are going to that cancer hospital by covering some of their daycare and their parking costs, alleviating a burden that they have for real, and in a way that that you're making a meaningful difference. It's true. And I'm a big fan of small business. I'm a big fan of smaller organizations. When you know that your support is making a difference, it really does fill you with a little bit more gratitude than, maybe not knowing, sending a donation off into the black hole and you don't know where it goes, right?
Building on that, Craig, what are some key factors people should look for when evaluating a charity's credibility and effectiveness?
I'll tell you what they shouldn't look at, and they shouldn't look at overhead costs. It's something that comes up from time to time. Overhead costs are real, and you'll hear this a lot as people will say, well, I want most of my donation to go towards the cause itself and not to pay salaries of, executive salaries for people that are running the organization. But if you don't have quality people running the organization, I can tell you the quality of the impact is going to be diminished. There is a balance. There is a balance for sure. I think what you want to really explore is this organization aligned with my personal values, right? And it's easy on the surface to say, I support this cause. They're doing great work in the community. Therefore, I'm going to support them. But especially if you're a donor, or if you're supporting with your advocacy or your words or your time, do a little bit of research. Obviously, check out the website. Pick up the phone and call them. You'll figure out pretty quickly if you're aligned with the values of the organization and of the people that are working there.
Right.
And I think, again, it's about making that personal connection. Now, a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't feel like they're entitled to pick up the phone and have a conversation. Well, then find an organization that you're comfortable picking up the phone and talking to. It's really important that you get that kind of value alignment. I think, you want to look at things like costs and overhead, but look at impact. Is this organization on the path to achieving, or are they currently achieving the results you want to see? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because most people don't have a way to define, what does impact look like? What does that mean? And more organizations now are providing impact statements. You'll find it in their annual reports on their website, where they will actually say, this is what we did last year, and this was the change we saw. But not all organizations can be measured the same way, because you may have organizations where their primary cause is to advocate for a specific community. They're not delivering services on the street to people. They're an advocacy group trying to fight for social justice or social change. Almost all of their costs are going to be staff related, because that's the cause. So it's just understanding and looking at the impact that the organizations make, and making sure they're aligned with the impact that you want to see in the community you're choosing to support.
Ryan, one of the reasons I brought Craig on, because I wanted you to ask questions, because you run a not-for-profit. So I wanted you to go in with Craig as much as you can.
Well, digging a bit deeper, I'm curious if you have guidance on, areas that nonprofits or charities don't realize they can tap into for funding, and where, like, a lot of times we don't talk about finance. We just try to survive and we get the grants that we can, or some sponsorship here and there. But are there tactics to finance or fundraising that you find some organizations don't utilize, that you have like more expertise in?
I don't know about expertise. I have opinions, and I have people in my network that will tell you different things.
Yeah.
I guess, and I'm going to go back to the videos that we posted, and they are primarily designed for the people who are working in and around the nonprofit sector. One of the interviews we did with Jessica Denise, who's the CEO of Breakthrough T1D, which is formerly Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And she says, don't be afraid to shoot for the moon, right? They raised $85 million of a $100 million goal. If they had set their goal at 20 million, they would have raised 15. So don't be afraid to have a big, hairy, audacious goal. Don't be afraid to communicate it clearly and concisely. Why are we raising this much money? This is how it's going to go to work. And I think the other thing is don't be afraid to change course. If what you're doing right now isn't working, you can change. You don't have to do the same thing you did every other year just because that's what you've always done. But managing and navigating that change is difficult. There's no doubt about it. But I would say, don't be afraid. There's a lot of talk about how do nonprofits and charities diversify their sources of revenue, right? And I think that's important. But it's also important, I think, to take a quick look through what you're doing and find out if there's any small areas for improvement, because small things add up. Let me give you a very quick example. Some organizations will receive a grant and they'll put it in their checking account, and they'll withdraw from that checking account to cover their expenses. Well, along the way, you know how much money you're making in interest payments on your checking account. I don't need to tell you the number of that. We know it's as close to zero as possible. But if you don't need that money immediately, there are some ways that you can maybe, work with a professional at your bank or otherwise to maybe get you 2 to 3%. If people say, 2 to 3%, it's not a lot of money, except it is. Ask that board member to go and raise the equivalent of 2 to 3% more on the grant money that you had. It's not easy. Take every small thing that's available to you, and just those all add up to big things. So don't be afraid. Take advantage of the opportunities that are all around you. If you are going to communicate a different message, make sure you're doing it in respect of your audience, and just tell people what's going on. People can handle the truth.
That's good stuff. I just want to interrupt here again, talking with Craig about all things not-for-profit, charity, etc. Again, I want to push it again. If you're watching on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel in real time, we're running a poll. Have you donated to a charity in the last 6 months? So type in either yes, no, not sure, press the enter button. Right now, everyone who's answered has said yes, but we'd like to get more responses. Continuing on, Craig, beyond just donating money, what are some other ways that people can effectively support the charities they care about?
Time. And it's a trite response. It comes off very quick, but time. Some organizations, just by virtue of the work they do and the way they're structured, they need volunteers, right? And so if you can volunteer with an organization and give your time that way, that's a great way to support. Doesn't have to cost you any dollars. The other part of time is about amplifying their message. So if there's a cause that you care about, retweet their messages. If people are still using X these days, be aware of what they're doing and become an advocate in your own community for that kind of work. And I'm not saying that you have to go on the street corner and beat a drum and, but if you can incorporate your awareness of that work into your everyday life and share their stories with more people, you will impact their ability to make meaningful connections with new folks. So you can give a little bit of time as a volunteer. You can give a little bit of time as just message amplification. Watch their videos, comment on them, cross comment on them, share them with people in your network. That's important stuff as well. And that doesn't take a lot of time, but it's important, and it can help grow the influence of the cause over, because again, you just never know who someone downstream, when you amplify that message, that may be the first time they've ever encountered that. Then they'll come back to you and say, hey, why did you post that video? And you say, well, this is just a cause that I care very much about. So giving of your time is quite powerful.
I'm loving the look on Ryan Knight's face. I'm loving, because I see there's lots of thoughts going on in his mind. With me, it's alleged mind. With him, it's his mind. Inspired thoughts is saying clear communication is critical. This communication should speak to the donor and let them know. Oh, you put your thumbs up and let them know how that money will and was used. You put your thumbs up. You want to add on to that comment at all?
It's bang on. It's what I said earlier about, if people have supported you, whether with their time or their money, they want to know that support helped accomplish the goal. So you have to report back, right?
Yeah. Question from Frequency Event Promotions says, with funding becoming lowered in the NFP world, does this mean more foundations will pop up more?
This is a loaded question.
Well, we got good family here.
Promotions knows it. I don't know the answer. Is there are changes to the way wealthier people are giving, and as a result, I think that there will be more foundation-like instruments or vehicles. Maybe it's not a formal foundation, but more foundation-type accounts being structured. because people who have money, and this is a really sticky subject. A lot of times people who have money will choose that money to support the causes that are most important to them, and that's kind of what we're talking about. And they don't necessarily support the causes that are important for broader community building. And so there's a feeling afoot that if very wealthy patrons are only supporting causes that they care about, they're not serving the communities that need the support the most. So there is a trend towards more foundation and foundation-like vehicles, but it doesn't mean that. What it also means is that there's more opportunities for funding, but if you're not already in that ecosystem, it may be hard to make those connections. The truth of the matter, Ryan and Dr. Vibe, is there's 86,000 charities in this country already in Canada. There's well over 1 million in the United States. It's hard to stand out in that when your audience is that big. If you're a small charity in a small city, it's really hard to get that funding because the big players are always going to get the big checks.
Good stuff. Ryan,
And I was curious if you know much about so nonprofits, charities trying to get funding from foundations, and now foundations are able to do more granting to non-qualified donees. I'm curious if you're familiar with that space. Like, can nonprofits understand better about how to get funding from entities that are looking for good causes, but really we don't know how to approach it now that these new rules are in place?
Yeah, I don't often hear non-qualified donees on a call. So Ryan, you're in the middle of this. For people that I guess maybe for people that aren't familiar with that language, charitable organizations, if you donate to a charity who is a qualified donee, that's a term that Canada Revenue Agency puts out, you're entitled to get a charitable donation tax receipt.
Mm-hmm.
And then charities or foundations in this case, which are structured as a charity, tend to grant money out to other organizations that they choose to support. So it's a transfer from a charity to a charity. There's no tax implications. And now they're opening it up to allow for more causes to be supported. I think this gets back to education at a board level, at a governance level. So are people on the board of directors or are the executive directors keeping up to date on the changing and trends of charitable giving? And the answer is everybody is trying their best to keep up, for sure, but the landscape does move quickly and swiftly, and it's difficult enough to run the organization.
Yes.
What I think would be useful is if organizations at a minimum of once a year brought somebody in for a 15 or a 20-minute overview of here's some of the trends that are going on. And we noticed this a few years ago, and we're getting into the weeds on the nonprofit, but if you're a registered charity in this country, there's this thing called the disbursement quota where you're required to give away 5% of your assets every year as part of your charitable contribution. You can't just give money to charity and then the charity sits on it forever. They have to do something with it. But that increased. It used to be 3.5%, and now it's 5%. And I think there was a time when people hoped that more money would be spread out across more causes. It just meant that more money went to the same causes that it always had.
Gotcha.
So we didn't see this broadening of the amount of charities that were getting support. It just more money to the same causes. That's anecdotal evidence, by the way. I have no way to back that up, but education is very important. And I would go so far as to say, and I again, at the risk of offending the smaller and startup charities that are just getting going, before you onboard a new board director, get them some training, get them some education, give them a book to read. I don't know. They're very, very well-intentioned people. They care deeply about the cause. They're willing to sacrifice their time, their energy, and their efforts in support of it. They need to understand the charitable landscape so that when they walk into that, when they're out in the community and they're an advocate for the cause, they can have a meaningful conversation around how to, the trends of non-qualified donees or the disbursement quota or, the tax treatment of donations.
Absolutely. And I love that idea of having like purposeful, ongoing capacity building, like bring in people that can talk to these things, because as it's happening around us, even though, like you said, the disbursement quota might have gone up, do many nonprofits or charities even know that. And then even if you do know it, how do you action it? Like, if they're just going to give more to who they're already giving, we have to be really mindful to get in front of these entities that we can now let them know we exist. Like, hey, have the conversations. We hear you're going to give out more. Have you thought of these like you thought of us? So that purposeful continued education of ourselves, I think, is really needed. And if you know people besides yourself that can do those 15-minute check-in conversations, we'd love to get connected to them too. I'm gonna check your YouTube to see who on there might be good to get introduced to for sure.
Yeah, look, one thing I will say is that the nonprofit community is very strong, and there are a lot of organizations that do release, as we've done, free content to help people learn. And the sense of creating a community is real, but it does require that organizations carve out enough time for their leadership team or their executive director to say, hey, take a day, do some professional development.
Yes.
Go to a conference, or attend some of these online sessions and then report back and share the knowledge. But it's hard if you're caught up in the day-to-day running of a cause. I get it. So it is a real challenge. Time is the real crunch for sure.
Love that. And my apologies, I do have to jump at 10, but I'll be listening, and we'll definitely look forward to follow up with you, Craig.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ryan, and thanks for the great questions. You bring that charitable sector for sure.
Appreciate it.
Take care, Ryan. See ya. All right, some more. And don't worry, Craig ain't leaving yet. He says, Craig's carved out time. So I got some more conversation pieces. So just do a reset here, talking with Craig Swistun of Lexicon Financial about charities and how people can identify the ones they care about the most and how they can best support them. Some more comments here. Frequency of Event Promotion says, personally, I feel NFP is on its way out. Where I think NFPs will soon enough contract out their work. Would your guests agree or disagree, or has no comment?
I don't agree. Because I think nonprofit is such a broad, there's always a nuanced answer, right? Nonprofit is such a broad spectrum of businesses that operate as a nonprofit. Think about a community sports association that may be governed as a nonprofit. I don't think those are going on the way out. There is, and there always will be, a certain segment of the nonprofit community, of any business community, that kind of is redundant. There are trends towards more socially responsible for-profit corporations. And so I think some of the nonprofit work has been taken on by for-profit organizations that have gone for what's called certified B Corp. What B Corporation is, the standards that have to be applied to basically you want to be good citizens and do no harm in your business practices. So I think it's always going to evolve and change. At the same time, and I'll come back to charities, I think that there is a reckoning coming for many charities who find themselves competing for resources in similar spaces. And I think one of the things a lot of charities should consider or contemplate is collaborating better, maybe working together. And maybe we reduce the absolute number of charities in this country down, get a little bit more efficient. That's always a possibility, because the work is important, and we need to be more focused on solving problems.
Good stuff. The food plane from the U.S. says, and I think you've covered this, but just you may have a different answer. Why do you think many are hesitant to give to charities? Trust, past experiences, and what can be done about that from the charities end?
Yeah, well, let's maybe use this as a way to pivot towards the donors, because I suspect more people on the call are donors than opposed to working with charities. Trust is a big part of it. I don't know where my money goes. I don't know the work that it's accomplishing. And there was a comment earlier about making sure that as a charity, you're communicating with your supporters about how your dollars are being used. But trust is a big issue. There are ways to deal with trust-related issues, especially for larger donations, which we can get into if we need to. But I think trust. The reality, though, is that donations are down because people's wallets are stretched. We've all been dealing with inflation. We don't have as much disposable income as we did a generation ago, and so charities are competing, whether they want to believe it or not. They are competing with the price of food, the price of gas, the cost of your Netflix subscription. And so where people are choosing to spend their money, it's maybe not towards a charitable cause. And maybe that's because the charities haven't done as good a job as they once did of making sure that those charitable causes are meaningful in the lives of their donors and supporters. So trust is a big aspect. Just disposable income is another big aspect. Past experiences is the one that I think is really important. If this is about donor retention and donor engagement, if you've supported a charity and your experience with them is poor, the chances of you supporting them in the future is almost zero. So it's really important that charities understand the donor, and a simple, hey, an email that says thank you goes a long way, right? Respect that the people are giving their time, their energy, their efforts, and in some cases, their financial assets to you, and respect that relationship. If you don't have a good experience, it's tough to win people back. So I would counsel charities to spend more time on donor engagement, donor retention, saying thank you, showing gratitude. Those are important. Those are important things because the donors want to feel like they're being heard.
100%. Inspired thoughts. I'll just catch up on your comment here. Thank you for mentioning wealthy clients. People in our community need to understand these donors are often only interested in legacy projects. Good stuff. Another question here. Chad C says, where can nonprofit find charities willing to work and partner with them in securing funding?
Look, I don't know. Go watch the video I did with Jamie Martino of Tapestry Opera.
There you go.
The answer is sometimes if you're a nonprofit or a charity who's looking to tap into the foundation system and apply for grants and proposals, there's several thousand foundations that are grant giving organizations in this country and Canada alone. But it feels overwhelming because you feel like you're applying into a void. It starts with narrowing your search a little bit. Find the charities that are actually working in alignment with your mission and vision. So don't fire your shotgun and try and hit everything. It takes too much energy and effort. Narrow your search. Find the organizations that are absolutely aligned with your mission and vision, and then put a bunch of energy and effort into perfecting your pitch. Make sure that when you walk in, that they say that they're blown away by what you have to offer. And again, it may sound difficult, but think about your stuff as these people don't know who you are. You get one chance to make an amazing first impression. Don't waste it. So be over prepared and go in with putting your best foot forward.
I just want to add on to what Craig said, and he was at a meeting that he usually runs last week, and I mentioned it on the show last week. These two ladies who are launching a I don't know if it's a startup or whatever it is but they're helping formerly incarcerated individuals become entrepreneurs. And the presentation was amazing because one of the ladies has experience doing startups and all that. The other lady was formerly incarcerated, hadn't started her own business, but her story was so impactful, right? And I always say when you're first presenting to someone, they don't know who you are. All you have is a story. Have a good story.
Yeah. Look, I'm also, because of my background in marketing and advertising and all that stuff, storytelling is important. Stories are what connects us to ideas, and idea is what propels our actions forward. If we agree with the idea, we're more likely to support it, right? And the storytelling is not, and I maintain in this space, storytelling is not one-sided. It has to be circular, and it's because you're trying to build a relationship with somebody. And again, as a charitable organization, if you're building a relationship, and I see in the comments somebody who's making a monthly contribution to CNIB, another fantastic organization, if they're making a monthly contribution, maybe that's all that person can afford to do at this particular time, but you don't know that person who cares deeply about the cause, they're supporting it with with their money, they're being communicated with. Maybe there's a legacy donation down the road. Maybe they put a percentage in their will towards that cause down the road. These are long-term relationship building opportunities that charities need to jump on and take advantage of, for sure.
Good. Yeah, Seniors Case says, I donate to the CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind, monthly. The subscription model works well. They send out pamphlets showing where our contributions have gone. I am trusting that they are transparent. Next conversation piece we have here. Dr. Tachi says, great advice. Then the food plane says yes. So we're getting a lot of people. You got two Americans that are loving what you're sharing, Craig. They're loving what you're sharing. Let me ask, how has technology changed the way people donate and engage with charities?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The answer is always going to be positively and negatively. So, I'm going to speak about this more from a Canadian aspect. So one of the things that we've seen is, and I just want to go back to something I mentioned earlier, in when we make a charitable donation in Canada to a registered charity, we get a donation tax receipt that allows us we can use it to reduce the amount of tax we pay to the government. So there's a taxable benefit to us making a donation to a charity. One of the things that technology has done is interrupted that system. If you go on to a GoFundMe, as an example, and you're donating directly to a cause, directly to maybe an individual who's put up a GoFundMe page, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's actually a closer way for you to support something that you care about with your 20, 50, 100, whatever amount of money you can support. But that technology has enabled that donation to go directly to the person or to the cause, but you don't get a tax advantage for that. So it's just being aware that it's no different than, somebody knocks on your door and asks for money and you give them $20, you're not getting a tax advantage. There's nothing wrong with that, but just be aware that there may be a better way to give. Now, if what's important to you is that individual gets that money and the technology enables that, go for it. I'm not going to interfere in that decision, because giving is a personal decision. You decide, but just be informed that there may be more efficient ways to support a broader cause than giving cash like that. So technology has done that. What technology has also done, I'm going to stick on I think the bad stuff before I get to the good stuff. Technology has allowed for organizations to collect an awful lot of data about who we are as individuals. And so more sophisticated charities with bigger budgets, obviously, you're going to find that the communication materials they send you are much more targeted. And that's good and bad. It's good in the sense that they're probably doing a better job of delivering to you, Dr. Vibe, the information that you're interested in, because you declared at one point in time that you really like beet salad. And so they know more about you, which can be a little scary sometimes. The other thing is that on the good side is that they have a lot more information about you, and they know what it is you actually care about, and can be delivering communication materials that really inspire you as an individual. So there's potential for technology to be even more powerful in building deep and meaningful connections between you and a cause. Nice. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
Nice.
Right. If I know what you care about based on who you are and what you've shared with me, and I can target my marketing and advertising messages to meet the demand that you have as an individual, I'm probably going to do a better job of building a relationship with you.
Nice. Are you aware of any new or emerging donation models, such as impact investing, donor advised funds, that you find particularly exciting?
I'm a huge believer in the power of donor advised funds. I know they're different in the United States as they are in Canada. They're similar, but there's some differences. And donor advised funds being the fastest growing vehicle for donations. For those that aren't familiar with it, what it allows you to do is you can make usually a larger donation at one time, work with an accountant and a professional to make sure that it's done tax effectively. And then you can disperse that to the charitable causes that are important to you over time. So you don't have to give, let's say, $25,000 all at once to one cause. It sort of sits in a holding account. It's called a donor advised fund account. And then you can disperse that 5% a year until it runs out, or Maybe it never runs out. And so they're very powerful giving vehicles that bring some important aspects to it around transparency and trust. But it also means that the donor always has control of the strings. If you're supporting a cause and you no longer feel you're aligned with their values, you just stop supporting them. You just support a different cause. So there's some very valuable advantages to working with a donor advised fund. Impact investing, I think, is a little bit different. I think that not so much as a charity to support, but as a personal value. What are the causes? If you have investments that you can afford to make investments in things, what do you choose to invest in is important. You can choose to invest in, a big polluting company that makes a lot of money, hopefully for you, or you can choose to invest alongside with your values. We are seeing more conversations around value-oriented investing. I choose to invest in this because I believe in it, as opposed to I choose to invest in this because it will maximize my rate of return.
Right.
So that's an important conversation for everybody to have. But look, I appreciate that for many people, you invest because you're trying to save for something down the road, and return is an important component of that. So it's a very nuanced conversation. But yeah, the donor advised funds they've been around for over 70 years in Canada, but it feels like most people have never heard about them.
How do you feel charities can collaborate more effectively with businesses and communities to expand their reach and their resources?
Again, a lot of this is going to go back to the amount of time that's required to run and operate a charity is significant, especially one that's doing work in community. It is really important for executive directors and for boards who, the executive director and the CEO are accountable to the boards to make time available for their staff and their team to explore those kind of opportunities and connections. Because if you're always focused on the mission in the present, it's difficult to grow in the future. So I'm not saying that the boards are to blame, but the culture of an organization needs to be one with, okay, we're here today, we're working on a cause. What are we doing to prepare for tomorrow, for the next 2-3 years? And part of that is, as an organization, if you don't have a long-term written strategic plan, you should think about getting one. Because that will inform your activities and your communication. Because then when you go back to the board and the board says, what did you do to protect our organization or to grow the organization in 3 years? If you haven't talked to anybody about a long-term plan, then you haven't met your goal. So it's just about making sure that the priorities are aligned for the staff properly so that they're motivated to do those things. And they don't feel that they're being punished because an operational thing didn't get done. But again, every organization is going to be different. There are some great examples of collaboration between for-profit, nonprofit, government agencies out there. And it's just find those organizations that have done it and let them inspire you.
Nice. What role do financial advisors like yourself play in helping clients align their wealth with their values?
Yeah. I think it's if you are working with a financial advisor and if you are supporting charities at any level, you need to talk to your financial professionals about it. Because number one, they should be aware what your hopes, dreams, and missions are. It goes an important part to actually understanding, what makes Dr. Vibe tick is knowing the causes that you care about. So there's an important component there. But as I said a couple times earlier, if I have clients that indicate that they wish to support a charity, I'm able to introduce them to strategies that may be more tax effective for them. And it doesn't sound exciting to say, well, I just want to support a cause. But if you can support that cause and get a tax receipt, number one, that's better for your pocketbook, but it may actually enable you to give even more money to that cause. So the financial education component through professional advisors is critical. And I don't care if you're giving $100 a year, $1,000 a year, or $1 million a year. Learning some of the different ways to give that may have advantages might just make the difference to how you support things or not. I'll give you a very quick example.
No, take your time. Go ahead.
We all go to the grocery store and we all see the thing that says, would you, I'd like to add $2 for this charity or that charity. Okay. It's a worthy cause. There's nothing wrong with those with those causes at all. But if you go to the grocery store once a week and you give, $2 every time, it's rounded off. It's $100 a year that you're giving to a charitable cause. And you didn't get a tax receipt for that donation. If you had just, instead of giving $2 every week, just went onto the website, gave that exact same charity $100 once a year, you would get a tax receipt that could reduce the amount of tax you pay the government. Why wouldn't you do that instead? Right? But look, point of sale works. But
Right.
once you're aware, then you say, no, I want to support that exact charity. I'm going to do it in a more tax effective way. Or what generally happens is people say, I'm not disputing that might be a worthy cause, but I'd rather my $100 go to CNIB.
Got it.
Right.
Charmaine,
value alignment. The
Yeah.
more you know about yourself, why am I supporting this cause when that other cause that I care more deeply about could also benefit from my contributions?
Nice. Charmaine Hussey says, what's the best way to engage with organizations that want to support a cause and the best benefits to offer them?
What's the best way? Maybe
Yeah.
Charmaine, can you clarify what's the best way for you as a potential donor?
I think no, she's part of Ryan's organization, so I guess she's talking from a organization lens.
I think it's understanding which organizations have a natural alignment with you and which don't. Right? There's no point or no value. I'm not saying there's no value. I don't want to be too rude. If there's not an organizational alignment to begin with, you're not going to be able to work together, right? You have to find areas of common ground. And then I would say, I find the most value is when you can have an open conversation that deeply explores collaboration. How can we work together? What does working together even look like? You do this and I'll do that, and maybe together we can accomplish more than we could as individuals. Having said that, I recognize that it takes two to tango, right? You need to have an organization on the other side that says, we value what you do in your community and the contributions you make. Therefore, we want to partner with you. But again, it's back to, where do you find the time to do that? And who are you going to reach out to? And how do you do the research? If you're so busy focused on the mission, you don't have time. And here we go into this vicious circle again. We got to break that. We got to break that mold. And I think the best way to do it is just conversation and exploration. Be open.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Craig is sharing here. So for those who do not know, I'm a member of a dad's organization. And we have, as I say at the beginning of all the shows I do, 4-year partnership with Dove Men Plus Care. It'd be a little bit more challenging if we to want to get an alignment with Dove Women's. So right there, the alignment, and we did a lot of research online, etc., on what their values were aligned, and they aligned with our values. So right there, there's an alignment. A lot of times, the toughest thing is getting the right person to speak to. A lot of times it's finding that person that will pick up the phone or respond to your email, and the way you word it, that's a whole other conversation itself. But the word alignment is so important, because if the alignment is not there, I don't say it can't be done, but it's a steeper hill. I don't know if anything you want to add to that, Craig, or not.
No, I think it is getting that alignment, but I think it comes back to the question that Ryan asked, which is, why did we put out these videos? Is because sometimes executive directors or board directors, they're so busy running the cause that they don't realize that problem may have been solved by somebody else, or there's a natural collaborator out there. So they just need to take themselves a little bit out of the day-to-day. I'm a big fan of in-person, face-to-face networking. Yep. I recognize it takes a lot of time, but you were attended a meeting last week with the Comeback Catalyst, as you mentioned earlier. That's the type of situation that I think more folks that are involved or interested in charity need to find themselves.
They got to get out there. They got to get out there. Yeah, they got, like, every one of Craig's meetings that I've had has been so rewarding, and won't go too deep, but I love the organization that he's a part of. you come to what can you help with, or what do you need help? Where do you need help? They've created an environment where what do you need help with? And it was a different experience. Instead of you have 45 seconds. We don't want to know so much of what you do, is what do you need help with? So it's also being in that right environment too.
But hey, listen, I want to make sure that the people that are, especially from a Canadian context, that are on the call, like, because the question is, what can I do? What can I do more of? I think understand that if you're considering supporting a cause, that you are actually, in fact, the one in the power position. You're the one with the money that everybody's chasing. You are absolutely entitled, and I encourage everybody to ask questions. Why should I support this cause? What makes your cause different than the other cause? Those are all valid questions that you should ask, and you're entitled to. Don't ever feel like you're being railroaded into making a decision. There's absolutely no reason for that. If somebody's putting pressure on you to donate, don't. Right? It's just not a good relationship to start with. So I would encourage people to absolutely ask questions. And then if they are working with financial professionals, once you've determined the causes that you choose to support, that you care most deeply about, figure out how to support those causes most effectively. Some of the strategies, we touched on donor advised funds. That might not be a strategy that's available to you if you're only in a position to support a cause with, a couple $100 a year. It may not be, but you should be aware that that strategy is there. But there are other things that you can do along the way that could maybe make it more tax effective for you. And above all, just the causes that you care about, somebody else cares about, and just use your voice, amplify their message. If you can volunteer for them, not all organizations are set up that way, then do that. That's the important thing, because without volunteers, without a little bit of cash, without efficiency, we're not going to see the positive change we want to see in community.
100%. Charmaine says thanks to both of you.
Well, thanks for everybody's questions and participating.
And also Frequency Event Promotion says, networking events for NFPs. Well needed.
Well, I don't know where Frequency Event is located.
He's in Toronto.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yes, there you go. So you can keep in touch with me on that. Frequency Event Promotion. Last conversation piece. And again, Craig, thank you for sharing your time, especially just only having a few hours sleep coming in from London. But want to end at a real higher. What are some of the most rewarding or inspiring experiences you've had working with charities and donors?
Wow. I'll go to the donor part first. And I think this is true of anybody that views themselves in kind of an education mode. It's when the light bulb goes off, when people say, oh, I didn't know that. And it's not like this is hidden knowledge, but in North America, we do a very poor job of teaching kind of financial literacy to our citizens. And once people say, oh, how come nobody taught me that before? And it's, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today. It's that today moment. It's like when you see that you fundamentally altered the way people think about their giving. Maybe I have been too passive in my giving. I've always supported the same causes. Maybe I haven't gone back into my personal life history and evaluated, maybe there was an organization that really helped me become who I am today that I've forgotten about. And this exercise has made me remember that I'm going to direct some of my giving to them. Those are the most rewarding, is when people say, oh, I didn't think about that before. And for organizations, I think it's when they realize that, and they do realize this, by the way, this is not a secret, is how do we empower them to have that conversation with the folks that they're supporting them? And we did some work last fall. We did a presentation to a board of directors, and then immediately we did a presentation to all of their supporters on ways to be more tax effective with their giving. And as I said off the top, if it helps one person do something a little bit better, we're happy to do it. But that's the rewarding part, is when we see that the education piece, the information piece makes a change, makes a difference.
Well said to wrap up here. So Frequency Event Promotion says, Dr. Vibe, your guest, is very well versed in this important topic that we truly care about. Will there be a part 2? Please have a good, well, we'll see. Like Craig and I, we have at least a chat once a month. We have incredible and he makes my world better. So you can see why I have conversations, and I hope even 1% can do it for him. And he also says, please provide the intro at all possible with Craig. Okay, I will do so. I will do so. Craig, any final words you'd like to share with us before we let you get on with your day?
Well, first, thanks for having me. And this is the soapbox stuff. This is the stuff I get up in the morning excited to talk about. So I'm always happy to have this discussion. I would say for your listeners and your viewers, if you are involved in a nonprofit or a charity in some capacity, or you're interested in that, the series of videos, and you can see the YouTube channel on the screen, that's for you. If you're an individual who wants to learn about how to better support causes that you care most deeply about, I would just say, remind you, work with professional advisors, your accountants, your wealth advisors, and talk to your charities. How can you do things more effectively? Can make the difference for them. Because if everybody did things a little bit more effectively, those charities could see, without any extra effort from any of us, a 15 to 20% increase in donations. And, we've used the example, not on this call, but before, with learning how to do things better can start immediately. And so just open yourself up to that journey of reflection on what you care most about, who's deserving of your support, why you choose to support it, and then we can focus on the how. How should you do that? So
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm always looking forward to our regular check-in calls, and it's been a pleasure getting to spend some time with you and your audience this morning.
Absolutely. Well, as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and hope you get some rest today sometime. Remember to give yourself grace. And as always, if you're not making money, make history, but you're doing both, and also make it better. And that's one of the reasons I love having conversations, because I always come out better after our conversations, whether in front of the audience or offline. Really great. So thanks so much, and have an outstanding day. And I think we'll have to do a part 2 in the next while, because it seems there's demand for it, my friend.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All right. Fantastic. Frequency Event Promotion says we just subscribed to the YouTube channel. Yes. Love that. C-Nurse K says, what a great and insightful discussion. Thank you, Craig, for the valuable information, and Dr. Vibe, as always, for this great conversation. My pleasure. My pleasure. If you're still on here, quickly, I want to do another quick interactive poll. I want to get your feedback on what you thought about today's conversation. So I'm going to put up on the screen before you leave me today. Love me and leave me. I want to get your rating on today's conversation. So just give me a quick second, and I'll have it up for you. Okay. So we got this coming up on the screen. What did you think about today's show on a scale of 1 to 5? If you're on my YouTube channel, go to YouTube and put either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 and hit enter. I would love to get your feedback in real time before we shut it down today. All right, let's shut down in this way. Okay, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Like to get our next level subscribership. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Email me, dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com to advertise your business, product, or service on our show or anything that I'm on. Email me, dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. If you want to get a hold of Ryan, website, RyanOneilKnight.com, and that's Knight with a KN. RyanOneilKnight.com. LinkedIn, Ryan Oneil Knight. Instagram @Ryan.Knight99. Email, work with me at RyanOneilKnight.com. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, website, thedrvibeshow.com. YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram, The Dr. Vibe Show. X @DRVIBESHOW. And email address dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. And you can also catch me on Blue Sky at drvibe.bsky.social. And you can catch replays of this conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Afro Caribbean Business Network on Facebook, and Ryan Oneil Knight on YouTube. All right, let's do a little catch up here. All right, and I just want to show everybody, everyone who has voted, how they rated today's conversation. And I want also, because Craig's in the green room, so he'll be able to see this. Everyone's giving it a 5 out of 5. Yes. 5 out of 5. 100%. 100%. All right. As always, I want to say, and thanks to everyone for voting and interactive with all the software. Hold on a second. I think I got to sneeze. Nope. So hopefully I can save until when we're done. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. Again, if you're not making money, make history, but try to do both and always make it better. We will see you on Friday with Minnie on cam. And I think we're going to have some other people joining us on Friday, but God bless. Peace be all. Keep the faith, walk good. And thanks again. Be well. Bye-bye.
This whole thing of using your business with plant-based products, don't you think your life should reflect that too?
Juke him, Carolyn. Juke him. The family loves us here because they're saying Fitness IQ Can says put a wig on to get in.
Oh my God.
Like the ideas are just coming fast and furious here this morning. What? Okay, look at this. Global Women Ambassador. Good morning. Look forward. Okay.